So we left the first half with Alan Shearer arriving at the club, and let's talk about the other faces that came to Newcastle during the entertainers era. We had a lot of foreign imports, and I know you've got some great stories about each and every one. So we'll start with David Ginola.
Yeah. No, you know these guys, David, Philippe, Tino, they bought into what we were about. Yeah. We had a great on the field group, but we had a great off the field group as well. We socialised together as a group of lads. We socialised with our partners, our wives, our girlfriends. Some players had both.
Steve mentioned that last week.
And no, we had a great camaraderie, and what those lads done, they bought into it brilliantly. I mean, David come, I mean, let's get it right, 6'4" winger, Greek god, one of the shape he had, the muscles, but on top of that, good looking, brilliant footballer. I mean, Jesus Christ, it was like, a lad from Walker, how are you going to compete with that? But what he done, he was brilliant. I remember one of his first games, we played at Russian and Diamonds in a pre-season friendly. And for anyone who didn't know, Russian and Diamonds were owned at the time, and they were a club that was trying to go from non-league into the football league. And they were owned by the guy who owned Dr. Martens. So we went and opened this new stadium, and he gave us a pair of Dr. Martens each after the game. So, but on the way back, David was staying in the Newcastle Gosforth Park at the time. It was a main hotel, and he said, I'd like to go out into the city for a few beers. And as usual, everyone pointed him to me and Steve Watson because we were the social guys. So we said, yeah, no problem, David, we'll take you out. We took him into the 3 Mile pub in Gosforth. About 1 o'clock, he came with a few beers. Got about 4 o'clock, and he said, right guys, I'm off, I'm back off to the hotel, I'm going for a steam and a sauna and a spa day, swim in the pool. And we said, no, doesn't work like that. Once you're out, you're out. We're going into town now, you're coming with us. And we went into town, and being the young lads, we were crazy, and we were smashing the bottles off each other, so it fizzed up, and we had to try and drink them. And we've got this international superstar who must have been standing next to me thinking, what the fuck's going on here? What have I signed up to here? And so we had a great night out, and the next day we're in training, and it was still part of pre-season, so we had a physical session, there was a running session, and I remember David later on, and after he finished playing, he'd done a big article in the Daily Mail, and he was like, went to Newcastle and knew about I found out about what the club meant, and we had local lads playing in the team, and I went out with these 2 lads, and me and Walker, and he said, I just couldn't believe it, they'd been on the drink all day, drinking bottle after bottle after bottle. And he says, and the next morning we go into train, we have a real physical session, part pre-season. He says, I couldn't handle it because I'd been on the alcohol, I was at the back, and he says, these 2 lads, they'd been drinking as if alcohol was going out of fashion. They're at the front, they're running, they're just bombing on, and I'm thinking, is this what English football's about? So that was the one with him. Philippe was brilliant. We the first Saturday of every pre-season, we'd start on the Monday or whatever day it was, and then the first Saturday we'd go for a bite to eat and a few drinks to welcome the new signings in and all that, and we actually, Philippe signed and got everything concluded on the Saturday morning, and we were sitting in a restaurant in the city centre, and he just turned up, and here we seen this big Belgian guy who'd been fantastic in the World Cup, and he just turned up, and his first thing he was pint of Stella, and he had another one. We thought, this fella's right up our street. He can play for us. Not only was he a fantastic player, he was a great guy. I remember one time he took it's always me and Steve. We were the two together. Me and Steve Watson, we grew up together and big pals. And he said to us, you know, I found this pub at the back of the Civic Centre. Does Belgian beers, and obviously Philippe from Belgium. So he took us in one afternoon, and it's really strong, the Belgian beer. There was a thing called, was a Lucifer, there was another Deval, and all this. Tasted shit, but it was strong. But obviously, you know, easy. I was captain of the Easy Lead Brigade. Watto was the vice captain, so we just carried on drinking with him. And I remember him having to carry me from the Civic Centre to the top of the Northumberland Street, take me into McDonald's and try and get us a Coke to try and sober me up. I mean, be a fucking line of Coke now, not a cup of Coke. But, and we walks in and it's like, I'm thinking, I can't drink that ever again. He was great. I mean, I remember one time he came up to us in training, at the training ground, and he says, Nash, he says, I want to take my family to Edensburg. I says, Edensburg? I don't know where that is. He says, in Scotland. I says, I don't know. He says, Edensburg. I says, oh, you mean Edinburgh? He went, yes, you fucking Geordie bastard. I says, well, speak English. I says, fucking tell me the right place and I'll tell you where to go. He was class. He was class. And then obviously the crazy horse, who was Tino, topped them all off. We loved him to bits. He was great. But I mean, talk about someone who would come from the far shores and just bought into what we had. He'd been away on international duty once, and he came back and he was lying on the physio's bed in Derek Wright's room, the physio at the time, and he had like a hole in his calf. It looked like a stud. So I said to him, oh, bad tackle in the international game, Tino? He says, no, Nashki, bullet wound. I says, Tino, you have to be careful, man. I says, you keep doing that, you'll get fucked off the national team. He says, Nashki, never. Me and Pablo Escobar picked the national team. And he'd wear all this. He wasn't into his club. I used to wear all this. He must have gone to the Disney shop. He used to wear these white shirts with like a Tweety pie on the top and all that. We'd cut the sleeves off his shirt and we'd cut the toes off his socks. And where we were at Newcastle at the time, there was like 6 or 7 different dressing rooms because you could only get about 4 or 5 players in each one, so were spread around. And then you just hear Tino at the end of the session when he's come out of the shower, he's trying to put his clothes on and put his shirt on, there's no sleeves left, or he's put his socks on and the socks come up and, fuck you Geordies! And one Sunday afternoon we went to his house after a game, and he lived in Woolston at the time, and we knocked on the door and the housekeeper came to the door. Tino asleep? No, we barged in. It was 4 or 5, and his dad was there. And, hello guys, hello. And where's Tino? Upstairs. So we went up. He was lying in bed. It was the middle of the afternoon, and come on Tino, we're going into town. We're going for a few drinks Sunday night. Great night in the city centre. Okay guys, get yourself a drink. Okay, we'll go downstairs. No, the drink's there. Went through his ensuite. He had a floor fucking ceiling fridge in his ensuite full of Budweisers. But you know what? They were brilliant. I mean, you talk about his debut. We played Middlesbrough away. We just signed him on the Thursday, if you remember the pictures, when the snow was coming down, and him and Terry Mack walked across the car park at St James's. We played Borough away. And we came down for pre-match meal about 11:30, 11:45. We used to have a little light meal a few hours before kick-off. And Tino's there, he's got a big bowl of pasta and he's got a bottle of red wine. And he's filling the red wine glass up, and we're thinking, fuck no, he's not involved today, no problem. So he gets to the riverside, Kevin names the team, Tino's on the bench. We're thinking, fuck me, he's just had a bottle of red. You know? Then, if you remember the game, I think Les scored and then they equalised. They brought Tino on with about 25 minutes to go. He was sensational. He made the goal for Watto. Watto scored the winner. But he was nutmegging players for fun. He was like dragging the ball back. And I remember saying after Watto's goal, standing on the centre circle with Rob Lee, I think. Me and Rob were centre midfield, and I said to Rob, fuck me. How good's he when he's got a bottle of red wine down, and what's he going to be like if we can get him fucking sober? And it was just, it was brilliant. It were great guys, and they bought into the club. Honestly, the times you have, that's what you miss. You miss them guys. When you see them, I speak to them, I've spoken to them through yourself. I mean, obviously with Tino and stuff like that, and seeing the lads. I mean, that was the good thing of the week at the cup final, you know, seeing. I'd done a gig beforehand with Les Ferdinand, Rob Lee, Steve Howie, Watto, but then I bumped into Nobby Solano, Warren Barton, John Beresford, Shea Given. It's just great seeing all the lads, you know, the camaraderie still there, the band. That's what you miss when they talk about. There's two things you miss: the adrenaline rush at 3 o'clock on a Saturday or whenever it was, and you miss the banter with the lads in the dressing room. That's what you miss, because I don't know if I was lucky at that time, but we had such a great group of lads. It was brilliant, you know. And as I said, I don't think it's by luck. We had a great relationship off the pitch, like we did on it. And one of the big things I'll always see on it, we weren't frightened to fall out with each other on the pitch to get the right result. There was many times we got, you know, really hostile with each other at half time or on the pitch to get the right result. After the game, it was forgotten and moved on, and we got the result and we were happy, and that's all that mattered to us.
A couple of more things on the entertainers. Tell us about that infamous incident where you and Kevin had a little bit of a tete-a-tete, shall we say, in front of the cameras.
Yeah, that was interesting one. It was down at the Dell, the old Dell, Southampton's ground, and if anyone who'd ever been there, was really tight where the fans were. And we came in at half time, and Kevin let rip with Rob Lee. He had a real pop at him, basically saying, come on, you've got to help Nash, he's in there on his own and you need to pull your finger out. We 1-0 down to a Letizia wonder goal, which was the norm at that time. He was our nemesis. And then Coley scored an equaliser, and we were in the ascendancy, and then my number popped out the toast, and especially after what happened, after what had been said to Rob, I thought he might have been the one to make way. So Peter knew at the time I was angry, so he tried to grab me and said, just be calm as you walk off. I didn't heed his warning, and as I walked off, I booted the old physio bucket that used to be steel buckets, and it fucking killed us. But I didn't want to show. And the tunnel at the Dell then was in the corner of the stadium, and I tried to walk down the side, which wasn't even a yard from where the fans were. And I started walking down there, and Kevin chased after us, and he started smacking me backside as he was shouting at us, get back in that dugout. It was something that reminded us from when I was like a youngster, you know. Obviously it's different now, but like when I was growing up, if I'd, you know, misbehaved, which I usually did, and done something to my younger sister, my dad would like smack us up each stair, but as he was smacking us, he would like be saying, now you get to your bed. And that's what Kevin was doing down, like, you get back in that dugout. I was like, fuck, how you swear me once more. So we ended up losing the game, and he'd forgot about how the team had played and the result, and he just let rip with me. So I nearly lost, that was my time up, because we got the bus back 7 hours from Southampton. About 10 minutes from getting to the training ground, sent Terry McDermott down, and I just played 70 minutes, and Terry said, listen, Lee, or Nash as he called us, Gaff, I want you to play in the reserves tomorrow at Leicester. and thought, wow, Leicester away. And before we left, I knocked on his door of the training ground. He was there. I says, Gaff, I can have a word. And he says, no, she's not prepared to talk to you at the moment. Just go with the reserves and do what you normally do, give your best. And I thought, on that journey to Leicester, I thought, wow, I'm in an awful position, yeah. I need to do something if I want to save my career. And I contacted the media guy at the club, and I said, you need to get all the press at the training ground tomorrow, TV, radio, whoever, newspapers. And I'd done my own press conference and I apologised to the manager, the chairman, the supporters, my teammates, for what I'd done. And then he called me in and said it was really good and mature what I'd done. And I think that's what saved my career really at that time. In terms of Newcastle, I think he was ready to get rid of us. But he still left me out on the Wednesday. We played Wimbledon away in the Cup. I get a call on the Tuesday from Barry Venison and Brace, who say, oh, your mate's gone out in dispute with you. What do you mean? Oh, Coley's fucked off from the hotel. Doesn't like how you beat Tret. So he wasn't playing. So we ended up losing the Wimbledon in the Cup on the Wednesday. And then we had Wimbledon in the league on the Saturday. Kevin gets us in the office and he went, right, slate's clean. He's ready to play again. Of course we are, Gaffer. We apologise for what's gone on. And we played Wimbledon, beat them 4-0. Cody scored 2 and I made both these goals. So it was just, that's the way it was. Kevin was the boss. We knew that. And that was how close it came at that time. I don't think if I had done what I'd done in terms of the press officer, I think I would have left the club at that time, to be honest. Yeah.
Lots of times we've done talking together, Lee, and it never gets easy asking this question, but why didn't Newcastle, why didn't the Entertainers win a trophy, and why didn't we win the league that year, from your point of view?
Oh, God, that's awful. I've still got all the dust on the mantelpiece where I'm waiting to put the Premier League winners trophy there, medal or whatever you get. It's so unique, isn't it, when you think of the clubs that have dominated. Obviously you've got the Man Cities now of the world who've dominated this last era. In our era it was Arsenal and Man United. You obviously had the Blackburn who won it once, you had the Leicester who won it once. We could have joined a unique group of players who've done it, and I think if we had won the league then we would have kicked on. Sometimes I think, did we have enough experience in the team in comparison to Manchester United? My dad always says it was because we signed David Batty and I never played in the last 9 games, but
I would agree. Your dad was always right.
We were 12 points clear at the time, my last game, and I never played in the last 9, so so we have to see with that one. But I just think at that time we, in comparison to Man United, we didn't have enough players who won the big trophies. We had Peter who'd won it at Liverpool, Barry Venison had won it at Liverpool, Paul Bracewell, before it was the Premier League, had won it at Everton. And I think the rest was, we were quite naive, I think, in comparison when you look at the United squad that all won it before. What was difficult, if you remember, we always played on different days, so we were watching how United were doing. I think Schmeichel and Cantona for United just went on a phenomenal run, because they had lots of games where they didn't play particularly well, but Schmeichel kept them in it, and then Cantona would score the winner. So there's lots of things. I mean, when you get so close like that, I mean, people talk about in sport you never get remembered for being second, but we're still talked about in such a high acclaim by the Newcastle fans. That's why I was hoping they'd win the Carabao Cup the other week, so people would just fuck off thinking about us. Because I'm a Newcastle fan and I don't believe the guys from 69 get enough exposure. And I wanted these lads to win it because we want to be known as a club that wins things. And it is tough. You see some of it and you look back now and you talk to people. I talk to my kids about it and they're like, wow, Dad, you were that close, but you got, and it didn't happen. And it's a tough one.
Tough one. It is. Kevin Keegan arrived and it was a big, shock to see him come in as a manager. It was an even bigger shock for the fans to see him go. What was it like for you as a player?
Very hard, very sad. Not surprising because we knew him. He was an open book. He wore his heart on his sleeve. That day at Charlton, we sensed something wasn't right before the game. Certainly after the game, when he got back on the coach, we sensed it even more. But it was still a shock the next morning when we came in and Arthur Cox and Terry McDermott addressed us to see Kevin had left. We were gutted. We would have ran through the proverbial brick wall for him, every single one of us. He had this unique feeling. He had that unique bond with us all. He was our manager, but he was like a father figure. For example, when my first child was born, he took time out. It was great. I ran because what happened was we played Aston Villa on the Saturday, and on the Monday night, my first child was born about 6 o'clock, and our lad's night out was a Monday. So I gave my son the quickest first bottle he's ever had. He probably choked 3 times just so I could make it onto the quayside for 7:30. And then I went down onto the quayside, and next morning when he training, and I went out to train, and he grabbed me by the arm and he's like, "You're not training today." And I'm like, "What's up? What have I done wrong?" Because usually I'd done something wrong. And he's like, No, you're fine, it's all right. And he's like, "We've heard the news. Jean, my wife's got you a gift." He says, "But you sitting with me on the side of the pitch." And we sat on the side of the pitch, and then he got one of the guys to bring a bottle of champagne out, and he has me and him drink a glass of champagne each because the birth of my first child. And that's what he done. He was one of the first managers to take notice of what your family, your situation, and made you feel just like $1 million. So stuff like that. So when you're not just losing a manager, even though I had like run-ins with it, I had like a father figure to us. So when I signed a new contract when he was there, and he just done the negotiations, he come to us and said, "Lee, got your new contract, this is your salary, this is your appearance money, this is this is that." And I was like, "Okay, Gaffer, I'll sign, no problem." And that's how he was with us all. So when he left, it was a real tough time. But we didn't know 100%. But as I said, because he wore his heart on his sleeve, you could see that his enthusiasm was diminishing, and especially that day at Charlton in the Cup. Got back on the bus and he hadn't even took off because it was a cold day in January. He took off the woolly hat. He'd been in the media, and we seen him get on the bus, and I remember we all just said something not right. And that next morning it was hard, of course. A lot of the time when you lose a manager because you haven't performed, and he's losing his job because of results. This wasn't the case. This was a team that was just finished second. We've got the best striker in the world now. The following season in Shearer, we were pushing, to win trophies. This could be our chance. And here was a manager who had his principles and decided to move on, and that was a tough time.
He was always going to be a hard act to follow, and Kenny Dalglish came in, and not many fans got to be very thankful for Kenny Dalglish, I've got to be honest. He doesn't go down in history as one of our best managers as far as fans are concerned. Yet he got us to a cup final and we finished second, but you know, it was the end of the road for you as well, first time round.
It was, but that wasn't down to Kenny, to be fair. That was, well, possibly it was in a way. I think there was a spell during that season where I was in the team and we'd beat Charlton in the replay 2-1. Me and Alan scored at St James's, and then we went to, before that we went to Villa Park, the first game without Kevin, where Terry and Arthur took the team. We drew 2s each, and Bosnich had miskicked and I chipped it over him, so it scored there, and I was playing well, and then we won 2-1 at St James's. In the cup replay against Charlton, me and Shearer scored, and then down at Southampton, I think me and Ferdinand scored. We were 2 up, and then Letizia, as normal, got his 2 late wonder goals, and we drew 2-2. But I was playing well. And then we had the next round of the cup against Forest, and I just got left out, and I thought to myself, well, if I'm in good vein of form, 3 games playing well, but 3 goals in 3 games, and I can't get in, it's tough. And so I decided then it was time for me to move. Kenny, through Freddie Fletcher, had come to us and said, I want you to sign a new 5-year deal, and I was like, guys, listen, the money, the length of the contract, it's irrelevant to me. It's what I do. I'm not working hard every Monday to Friday, then on a Saturday afternoon I have the big thing and I want taken away from us. You can't keep doing this to us. If a local lad, and you need to treat us better. I can't, there's no way. Even Kenny said when he left us out, after I've got no reason to leave you. Well, why the fuck are you leaving us out then? Basically, so it's like, so I decided to move on after that. It was in terms of, I could have stayed. I could have signed a brand new contract and stayed there and been there for my full career. But you know, when you're doing something and you work so hard Monday to Friday and you train hard and you stay back and you do extra and you're trying to be the best you can be, and then the most important part of that week isn't happening for you, it becomes difficult. So I had a decision to make, and I got back in the team later on before the season finished. We finished second because of our result. Did we play Forest at the last game of the season?
That's right, yeah.
And we got a big scoreline against
5-0
them or something, and the teams around us didn't, so we ended up finished second. So, but I'd already made my mind up, it was time to go, so then I spoke to various different clubs.
2 more questions from me before we open it up to the floor. I want you to tell a story about your medical for Fulham.
Well, Fulham was a great club that I went to. Very interesting. We had one of the most high-profile owners in the world, Mohammed Al Fayed, who was owner of Harrods at the time. So when they agreed a fee with Sunderland to buy me, and then I agreed terms, I'd done my medical. They have a hospital in Harrods, so I went to do my medical in Harrods, and my medical took 3 or 4 days. Everything was looked at. Every conceivable part of my body was looked at. And the last day of the medical coincided with the famous Harrods sale. And the Harrods sale, Mohammed, the chairman, he always got a proper celebrity, not like these, what they're called now, X Factors,
Reality stars.
He got proper celebs to open the sale. So I'm standing on the scales, absolutely in my birthday suit, nothing on, and I looked to my right, and I sees the chairman coming along, Mohammed Al Fayed, and I sees this absolutely stunning older woman, and I'm thinking, fuck, what's happening here? And I'm standing there with nothing on, and he walks past us and he just back slaps my arse, it ripples for a while. And he says to this lady, that's one of my new signings for my football club. And I was thinking, fuck, what's happened there? This is quite surreal. And I later found out, because we went downstairs, it was obviously the famous sale. It was Sophie Loren. Who I, obviously, when I sent the story to my father and my mum and all that, they were like, Sophie Loren, she's super famous. And yeah, but just seen the walk a lad in his nude. So it was like some of the things he done. It was like he was unique, but he was special for the players. So after about 2 years, we got promoted to the Premier League, and my wife at the time with the children, she'd moved away after a year. She'd come back to the Northeast. So I was in Disney World with Kevin Keegan, who was our manager, the French footballer. He was our manager, and he said, listen, the chairman's asked me to pass a message on. He wants you to sign a new contract, but one of the stipulations, he wants your family to come back down and live in London. I said, okay, that might be a problem. And then he passed a napkin across and he said, that's what he's offering you per week. I turned to my wife, I says, you fucking come back to London. And so we came back, we found a house in Surrey, beautiful house. Everything was settled. Went to a school where we wanted to put the children in, and visited them, me and my wife, and the headmistress was like, lovely, you Mr. and Mrs. Clark. Unfortunately, we have no places at the moment. So went into training. Chairman's right-hand man, Mark Gardner, was there, and he's like, Lee, chairman's asked me how's things going. I said, Mark, found a house, agreed everything with the deal with the house, been to the school, no places. And he's like, oh, what's the name of the school? I says, Newcastle in Epsom. And he said, okay, no problem. Didn't think anything more of it. About 2 days later, I get a call, and it's the headmistress from the school. She says, Mr. Clark, would you like to come in with your wife? Went into school, she said, we found 2 places for your kids. And I said, oh, right, that's great, that's brilliant. She said, your boss, Mohammed Al-Fayed, he's give us 5 Harrods hampers worth 100,000 for the summer ball, and he's also paid for the new wing of the sports centre, which has cost 250,000. Now, to be fair, this guy didn't have to do it. It wasn't part of the deal. He just wanted his players to be happy, and he wanted the families to be happy and settled, and he done something brilliant, you know. And he'd go into Harrods, and he just, like, I went in with my wife at the time, and she's a brunette, and he'd come and sit at the table and say, hey, Lee, last time you were in, you were with a blonde. And I'm like, for fuck's sake. It's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's going to get me lynched. And but he was special. He was, for the players, he treated the children and the families so well, but he was absolutely crazy. Some of the things he done, I mean, brought Michael Jackson into the dressing room after one of the games.
At least it wasn't your medical.
Aye. Well, it was probably worse because it was after the game and we were in the wet room. So the wet room was like the shower area, or where you get massaged, or after the game, or you're just relaxing. And he popped his head in the wet room and he said, lads, hey your cocks, Michael's in. And then Michael Jackson appeared around the corner like that. So that was a stage on. He brought Tony Curtis in before the game, Jerry Halliwell. Oh, I mean, some of them were just. Rory Bremner was his big pal, and it was just like, well, it's just every day was just something new. But he was a great guy, a great guy. Opposite to Mike Ashley, that's for sure.
Definitely. Let's talk just about the return to St James's Park, because I mean, I don't think any of us saw it coming as supporters. Did you see it coming?
I didn't at all, no. My contract had run out of Fulham. Harry Redknapp was trying to take me to Southampton, which was only about 45 minutes from my house down in Surrey at the time. So I thought that was going to happen. I was still big pals with Terry McDermott, really close. And he just said to us one day, he just said, listen, you know, the pre-season had started. It was the first time I wasn't training with a team at pre-season. I was doing my own work with a personal trainer. And he just said to us, why don't you come up home for a couple of weeks and just train with us, use the facilities? And I was like, no, Terry, my time's up there. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't want to intrude on the club. And, you know, I didn't feel comfortable with it. And he kept pursuing it. And then he got Alan to ring me. And Alan rang me and said, come on, what's the matter with you? Just come, it's your club, come back. Just come and train with us. So I thought, all right, what have I got to lose? I was coming up to see the family as well, so I thought, right, I'll do it. And I went in, and a couple of days, and then Graham Souness, after the session, says, I need you to come and see us. And I went, okay. So I went in the office and he said, listen, Terry's told us your situation, you've got your B&E licence, you want to get into coaching. He says, what about this? He says, why don't you come in and go with Tommy Burns with the reserves, learn from Tommy, he's an experienced coach, work with the reserves and take some of the sessions. I've already spoken to Tommy, he's happy with that, and we'll register you as a player in case we ever need you. We're not going to need you, but you're there for a backup. And I says, right, no problem. He says, so playing the odd reserve game to keep your fitness. And I says, yeah, that's great, no problem. And decided to take the contract on. And my mindset was more on the coaching. But then as the pre-season went on, I used to go home and I was thinking, I was saying like to my wife at the time, I was like, I'm fucking better than them. I'm better than midfield players. They're shit. I'm 34. I'm nearly at the end of my tether, but I'm better than them. And she was like, you know, you're like, you just focus on the coaching. I was like, okay, no problem. So the first game this season went to Highbury, and I think they got beat 2-0. I was part of the travelling squad, watched the game, and I was just then doing the bits and pieces with the reserves and a bit of coaching and played a few games. And if you remember that season, it didn't start particularly well. I think we got to about the fourth game and we had Blackburn at home. And Terry Mack rang me and he said, listen, leading up to the game, I think the game was on the Sunday on TV. I think he rang me on the Tuesday and he said, listen, get yourself ready. The manager's talking about putting you in. I played 2 games before. I think I come on about 10 minutes against West Ham at home. It was 0-0. Had half a chance to score, and Ellie scored, and then everything. But leading up this Blackburn game, he said, "You've got a chance of playing." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to tell you." And he's like, "No, seriously." So leading up that game, and then the Friday before the Sunday, because Graham pulled us one side, he went, "You're going to be playing Sunday. What do you think?" I went, "Yeah, no problem." It's just, to be honest with you, I'm fucking better than what you've got. And I says, I'm an old bastard, but I never had pace when I was 19. I ain't gonna worry about it when I was 34. That's for sure. And he put us in and we beat Blackburn 3-0. Alan scored 1 and Michael scored 2, or vice versa. And Terry said after the game, Graham said, "Look, he just understands where to be in the game. He understands where he needs to be. He passes the ball simple. He passes to the same colour jersey he plays in," which I found strange because I thought that was the name of the game. And then I ended up starting 25 games that season. Played overall, being a sub about 32. So, but then I was getting old and the injuries started. Because to be honest with you, in January I should have really had a double hernia operation, but Emery took a serious bad knee injury, so Graham said can you put it off till the end of the season, and I says yeah, no problem, I can do that. It wasn't going to be easy because I was in a lot of pain, but you know, we'd lost Emery, and so the last 6 months I played in a lot of agony, just to get through really. And then when it come to that end of the season, I had the operation, I'd done my rehab with Derek Wright, I came in early before the team, and I just said to him, I just sat down in his office one day and I went, you know what, Derek, I ain't got the fight anymore for this. I'm 34, nearly 35. I'll just concentrate on the coaching. And we sat down with Glenn Roder, who was then the manager, and Glenn says, yeah, I agree with that. You take over the reserves full time. And so I just went into that. I'd obviously had two big operations on my Achilles while I was at Fulham. I snapped both of them 18 months apart. So I had a lot of injuries taking that toll then, and I'd had a great career. I wasn't then going to try to pursue it. I could have stayed and played and not got a contract in Newcastle. I could have went to Leeds, who were in the Championship at the time, but I just thought to myself, nah, go out. You started here, finish here. I never thought that would happen, and it was the great way to go out for us.
Yeah, perfect end to a fabulous career. Okay, over to you guys. Anyone got any questions? Anyone got any questions? Yeah, we'll pause this. Anybody got any questions? Hands up. Yes, mate.
It won't be controversial this time, don't worry, Steve.
I wouldn't expect it from you.
Too intimate. So you haven't really spoken too much today about you as a manager. So basically, like, who was your inspiration? Probably Keegan or somebody, I guess.
Yes.
But like, the main question is, how would you have handled, you said you described yourself as a hothead player.
I could never manage myself. The one player I could never manage was Lee Clark. Lee Clark, the manager, could never manage Lee Clark, the player. No, listen, when I was reserve team manager at Newcastle, Joey was coming back from injury and I had him for a few games, and Joey was fine. You had to manage the personality, you had to manage him. I remember going to Man City in the reserves, and I had Joey Barton, I had Emery, I had Abdullah Faye, and I had Michael Owen in my team. And sometimes when you have senior players like that playing in the reserves, they don't give everything, and it affects the young players and usually get an adverse performance and result. But those four lads were magnificent on the night. We blew Man City away, we won 4-0, their attitude was exemplary. It's how you treat them. You know, you talk about my managerial career. My managerial career has been a really mixed bag, where like my start at Huddersfield, where I still hold the record, is the longest unbeaten run in the Football League is 43 games. I then took on a job at Birmingham where I had a position where they'd just been in the playoffs, and I thought we could carry them on into the Premier League. And this was my chance to become a Premier League manager. Within 2 weeks, my owner got put under house arrest, so his assets got frozen. So then I had to change the dynamics of the club changed without going into the public domain. They told me I had three my wage bill at that time was 26 million for the players. They told me I had 3 transfer windows, which is basically 18 months, to get my wage bill from 26 million to 6 million. If not, we were going to go bust. And I had to do that by selling really top young players for cheap. Jack Butlin, he played for England, was in the, I'd given his debut in the Championship. We sold him to Stoke for 3.5 million. At that time, Jack was probably worth 10. Nathan Redmond, we had 12 Premier League clubs interested in him. Crazily, my chief executive sent out an email to all the clubs to say the fee was 3.5, rather than just have a bidding war where they would have went up and we might have got 6, 7, 8. But these were 2 players I wanted to build a team around, but I couldn't. These were young players that were our saleable asset. I had a player who was on 75,000 a week. He had two years left. I couldn't get rid of him. Why is he going to move and he's on 75,000 a week? He isn't. It's not the player's fault. It's the club's fault for giving him that contract. So how could I move? So then I had that short period of time, but I couldn't come out and tell the fans that our objectives had changed. That, oh, we just want to stay. Because no fan wants to hear the manager or the owner to say, look at the horrendous time we had under Ashley in Charlie when they said we just want to finish fourth bottom. But realistically for us at Birmingham, that was our goal, because I had to take a wage. 6 million in the Championship is not doable. You can't survive, really. You shouldn't be surviving on 6 million in the Championship. The top 4 in the League One are 6 million. So, but we did that. But then the following, and what I should have probably done that day, we survived the famous day at Bolton. We now legged it down the line to celebrate with the the Birmingham fans. And my agent said to us, fuck me, if you had run that quick and you played, I would have got you to Barcelona. I think the fatter I got, the quicker I got. That should have been the key. And now, if that had been the same, it was, that's probably even a better job than what I'd done at Huddersfield, even though I got these plaudits because of what we'd done at Huddersfield. And then you get sacked at Birmingham, and what do? Managers have ridiculous egos, because you cannot be a manager without having an ego, because you can stand on the touchline and you're getting pelters and you're getting belted and you're getting told this. So I take the Blackpool job, who took 4 points from 14 in the Championship, thinking, if I keep these up, this is the best thing I've ever done in my career. By the time you get in behind the scenes, you realise the crap that's going on. This was a similar scenario to Mike Ashley and the Newcastle fans. They hatred on a smaller level with the Oystons and the fans. They hated them. So they obviously thought I was part of the Oyston clan. I was classed as an Oyston puppet. That's what they called it. And it was like horrendous when you went in there. So then you realise after about 6-8 weeks, fuck me, I shouldn't even be here. But then you promised a couple of young kids who you brought into the team, their families, I look after them. We end up selling them to Stoke for £1 million each or whatever. But then in the summer, when I decide to leave, and I ring Carl Oyston up and say, listen, I'm quitting. And he's like, really? I thought you would have just put your fucking tin hat on. I went, what? Tin hat? I need an articulated, I need a fucking tank here, man, to get around this. It was great, my first game as Blackpool manager. I'd only took over on the Thursday. We play Ipswich at home on the Saturday. And it's 0-0, it's after about 20 minutes. And there's not many in the ground because there's all this hatred towards Joystons, but a few out were there. And this guy runs from the back of the stand down towards where my dugout was. He goes, Clark, you're worse than fucking Ince, man. I go, I've only been here fucking 15 minutes. He goes, I know, but fucking come on. And then there was another game we played. We played Nottingham Forest at home. Carl Darlow, Lascelles, Mikel Antonio were playing for Forest this day. We went down to 9 men. And we ended up drawing 4-4. We were 4-2 down with 9 men. We got 2 goals back. And this guy runs down, he goes, fucking Clark, it's a joke, man. What are you fucking doing? I goes, what's the matter? He goes, well, we're getting fucking beat. I went, no, it's 4-4 and we've got 9 players. And he went, you're doing fucking great. And he put back off of this, man. And I thought, wow. Then I went to Scotland, had a lot of success there with the team I took over. What I should have done, I should have stayed there. I should have built my reputation up longer rather than come back down south when I got headhunted off Bury. The owner had a lot of, he offered us a lot of things in terms of keeping the club up at Bury, and then we could progress from there, but it didn't come to fruition. He sold up the following owner, that went into administration, out of business, which is the saddest thing ever. I should have stayed in Scotland, because when I took over at Kilmarnock, we were second bottom. In Scotland, how it works is the team that's bottom gets relegated. The team that's second bottom plays off with the team that wins the playoffs and the championship. So we played Falkirk, we won that, we stayed up. Then the following 6 months, I took the team into the top 6. And if you're getting a team like Kilmarnock into the top 6, it doesn't sound a lot, but how I can give you an idea of that, we played Celtic. Brendan Rodgers was manager of Celtic. Me and Brendan go back. Brendan was captain Northern Ireland when he was 15. When I was England, we go back then. We become good pals. So we're sitting in his office after the game. He doesn't drink. He's on the Coca-Cola and I was on the red wine. And he's like, yeah, I'm having a bit of a set too with my board. And I was like, oh, what's up? And he's saying, I'm trying to get a bigger budget out of them. And I says, oh, what's your playing budget now? He says, oh, it's 19 million, but I'm looking for 25 million. And he says, what's yours? I went, oh, 800 grand. And it was that's what it was. So it was like, when you're in Scotland, it's like Accrington Stanley being in Chelsea's league, if you know what I mean. And it's not just Kilmarnock, there's other clubs like that, but it had a little bit of old school about it. I loved it. I loved the people. The stadium was brilliant, and now that's my big regret in my managerial career. I should have stayed and built on what I was doing there and possibly took them into Europe. Then when I went to Bury and stuff like that, and then it's just petered out. Now I've got a life where I'm a Newcastle United supporter again, which I'm loving. Whether I do that just as a fan or I do it through TV or radio. And I also got a lot of time to go and see how my boy's doing at Liverpool and see how he's getting on and go from there. So I'm enjoying it. I've got no rush. I obviously had a couple of stints overseas, which I always wanted to do, and they were great experiences for different reasons. That won't happen. There's no overseas jobs for us me anymore. I don't think the management game will come back to us.
Could you not borrow Steve Bruce's tin hat though?
No.
How's the bacon, did you say?
How's the bacon? No, I'm really enjoying, I'm loving witnessing the atmosphere in the city centre before the games, then going to the games. I'm loving that. And it's back
being a fan.
It's back to being when I was younger. So it's gone full circle. Like my playing career started then, I finished. Started being a fan, and now I'm back to there. And then I've got plenty of time to. My son's playing in numerous different levels. He's going all over the shop. Sometimes he's representing the under-18s in the Youth Cup, and then he's in the under-19s in the Champions League Youth, and then he's in the under-21s, and he's in the first team, and so I'm going various different places to watch him, and it's all good. So.
Good experience. Okay, yeah, great. Good question. Anybody else got time for a couple more? Yes, mate.
Who is, how do I phrase this? In the Newcastle days, was there a player that people were very sort of passionate about, people were kind of saying was brilliant and all that, but you thought, actually they're not that good?
Any players that were hyped up that you thought, what the hyping him up for?
That's a good question.
There must be a kind of few.
Well, there's always one for me that sticks in my mind, and he played in a position where one of my best pals played, and I never felt he was any better than him, but he came at a similar time to high profile players, so he thought he was part of that echelon, and when we played with him, he was good, but he wasn't as good as my pal, and this isn't being disrespectful, this is just being brutally honest, and that was Warren Barton. And Warren came with the Ginolas and the Ferdinands of this world, and he put himself on that pedestal of those players, and he was never near that level. And for me, he wasn't as good as Steve Watson. He never gave the team what Steve gave us, but he was still a good player. We had lots of good players that couldn't get in the team, but Yeah, for me, that was always the one that sticks out.
Did the media overhype him because of the price tag?
Probably because he was the most expensive defender at the time. I don't know if it was just in the Premier League or if it was in world football, I don't know. But it was, of course. But he came also, Steve, what happened, if you remember, he came in that little window with Les Ferdinand and Ginola, where you're talking about two top draws. But he, very well done, he jumped himself onto that. And this thing, you know, with people that think, oh, those three come together, they were different class. If you think about it, really, and one example to this is, when he came, Kevin Keegan got me in the office and he said to me, Lee, listen, he said, you've been an attacking midfield player all the time you've been here. He says, I've got Peter Beardsley, I've got Rob Lee who can do that. It's going to be tough getting in ahead of them. Why don't you try being a bit more of a defensive midfield player to come and get the ball and start our attacks? He says, but what I will say to you is I'm bringing Warren Barton in, who plays as a right back, but he can also play in midfield. So I thought to myself, right, okay, I hear what the manager's saying. I'm glad he's given us that chance to and give us the heads up. So all that pre-season I played as a deep line midfield player, got on the ball, started the moves, blah, 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 blah. And we had 2 pre-season friendlies left. We had Heart of Midlothian up at Tynecastle, and then we had Gary Mabbitt's testimonial at White Hart Lane. And we gets up to Scotland, up to Edinburgh. Kevin names a team and I'm not in it. And I think, fuck, I'm not involved. He's not going to pick me to start the season. So I goes out on the pitch and I'm in the centre circle on my own. And Kevin comes over with Terry Mack and he goes, you alright? And I goes, nah, not really, Gaffer, you know how I am. He goes, no. He says, this is different. He says, tonight's team, completely different to the team I'm picking against Gary Mabbitt's testimonial team. He says, the team that plays in White Hart Lane and that is the team I'm looking to start. I think we had Coventry, was it? Coventry first game of the season at home. And he says, I've quickly realised Barton cannot play in midfield. So I thought, well, thank fuck, your brains have clicked it. And so they played the game and I played it obviously in Mabbitt's testimonial and then started the season. That was the season where we should have went on and won the Premier League, wasn't it? So.
Okay, got time for one more. Anybody else got a question?
Did you ever question yourself when you signed for Sunderland?
I did. No, I did all the time until the 29th of each month and the pay packet come through.
Paid some good wages, Lee.
And it was every 29th of each month I realised, wow, this isn't too fucking bad. Wish they killed him Geordie being the best player for 2 years and being the highest. It was great one. My wife at the time, she was at the match and must have been the one game I misplaced a pass for them. And this guy jumps up and shouts, Clark, we're fucking giving you 18 grand a week for that. And my missus looked at him and said, really? Is that how much he's getting? and he said, yeah. She said, I'm his wife, I haven't got a fucking clue what he is. The good thing, it was great. You know, I spoke to Jim Smith, manager at Derby. As I said, give us my debut and I had a lot of time for him. Frank Clark, obviously his links with Newcastle as manager at Man City. Brian Little at Villa. Tommy Burns, the late great Tommy Burns up at Celtic when I was moving on. Then Reedy was the last person I met. And I met him in Manchester, and my agent had organised a private plane just for me, a private jet. I was the only person on it, flew to Manchester from Newcastle, met Reedy in a champagne and oyster bar. He got me absolutely fucking blocked up. I agreed to sign the deal. And I was that pissed coming home, they weren't going to let us on the plane, it was only for fucking me. It was my private jet, but they still weren't going to let us on. He's too drunk. The agent said, it's fucking his plane, he's on his own. He's not going to cause a problem to anyone. I remember getting back and Reedy had said to his, I'll get you in the England squad and we'll do this, we'll do that. And this was on the Friday. On the Saturday I went down to Wynyard with a couple of pals, played around the golf, and I was just about to tee off. My wife rings us and she says, I had a guy on from the FA called Glenn Hoddle, that's the fucking England manager. She says, oh well, I put the phone down on the mat that I thought was a wind up. And I says, right, no problem, they'll ring back. I'll ring back, so she sends Hoddle my number, so he rings us. Lee, it's Glenn Hoddle. I'm just getting ready for a qualifying in Bulgaria, play tomorrow. And then on Monday we fly to France for Le Tournoi. We're playing in a 4-team tournament against Italy, France and Brazil. And you're going to be part of the squad. Oh, fucking brilliant. She says, so great news. He says, what's happening to yourself? I says, oh, just agreed to go to Sunderland. He went, he says, well, that could be a problem. He says, because obviously we're putting you in the squad. He says, but going further down the season, they're in the championship, we need to pick players in the Premier League. And I was like, right, no bother. So I'm thinking, I'm hitting my golf shots, they're going flying all over like usual, nowhere near the hole. I'm thinking to myself, I need to do something. So I rings my agent, I says, Paul, I says, anything in the contract if I get international caps, get in the squads and stuff? He says, why'd you ask? He says, yeah. I says, oh, Glenn Hoddle's just been on. I says, he's calling us up on Monday morning, first thing Monday morning. I says, to the Tournoi squad. He says, right, leave that with me, I'll speak to Bob Murray. So, goes to the Roker Park to do the press conference because Stadium of Light was just getting built. I never played at Roker Park for Sunderland. I played all the football at the Stadium of Light, but that was getting finished up. It was still a building site. So we does all the press conference. I takes my dad over. It was great. Reedy's fucking brilliant. I goes over and I've got a pinstripe suit on. And I walks in his office. He goes, are you taking the piss? I says, what's up? He says, you've got a fucking black and white suit on. I says, well, didn't Murray got that knee bother? And she said, fucking hell, this is going to be hard work, this. Seriously. So we'll do the press conference. And we goes back into his office at Roker Park. And he's got this television on, Sky Television. Breaking news, yellow ticker. Sunderland new signing Lee Clark just been called up the England squad. Bob Murray's in there, Peter Reid, me agent. Bob Murray looks at the agent, he goes, you bastard. The agent says, what's up? He says, you fucking knew that was happening, didn't you? You got that extra money in that contract. and I said to Peter Reid, because in the talks on the Friday, he said, I'll get you in the English squad. I said, Gabba, you're a miracle worker. I said, I only fucking said what you half an hour ago, you're going to the English squad. And they were like, yeah, bastard. I was getting bonus on bonus and all that. I was like, oh, honestly, it was great. I've got to say, obviously, it was, the Newcastle-Sunderland rivalry. The reasons were I didn't have to move home. I had my first child. He was a young baby. The money that was on offer from Sunderland, of course, is going to turn your head. But I had 2 great years with Peter Reid. It was great. I'd go in on a Monday morning and I'd get in early and he'd be sitting in the canteen having a coffee and he'd go, how are they? What your mates been saying about us? I can't, Gaffer, they don't criticise you, they just think you've got a fucking monkey's ear. I used to say, oh, that's great. He's different class. And then obviously, the incident with the t-shirt, he let us go and he said, just make sure you don't wear any club colours. I didn't wear any club colours, but it was funny because it wasn't funny at the time, but when it got put in the press, I got summoned to the boardroom. Bob Murray, Reedy was in south of France as the manager, he was away, and Holder still. The fixtures had been announced. Sunderland's first game was Chelsea away, Stamford Bridge, and so got Bob Murray there, me agent, sitting at the other side of the table. Reedy's on the loudspeaker on the conference call, and he's saying, I fucking told you not to wear colours and blah blah blah, and well fuck it, you'll be in the team when we go to Stamford Bridge and blah blah blah. And anyway, I'm fucking going on the roads here, I'm on my holidays, I'm not putting up with this shit. Bang, puts the phone out. Bob Murray's there and he goes, Lee, listen, he goes, forget, Peter's angry, you can never play for the club again, you understand that? And I goes, yeah, Chairman, fully understand where you're coming from. Apologise for what's happened. We already had Fulham lined up, so we're cruising. And so I walks out the door, but as I grabs the door handle, I thinks, try one more. I turns round, I had 3 years left on my contract. I says, Chairman, I says, are you paying us up in the contract? He went, get out that fucking door now, you So that was it. Good days.
Ladies and gentlemen, been a cracking night. You've been a great audience. Put your hands together for Lee Clark.
Thank you.